So, a very warm welcome to you this evening. My name is Jeni Jones, and I'm one of the specialist nurses working here at Pancreatic Cancer UK. And we would like to thank you for joining us for this session on pancreatic cancer and emotional well-being. This evening, we will be talking about how pancreatic cancer can affect your well-being, whether you have a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer or you are supporting a loved one, and how this can change over time. We will also be sharing practical tips on how to manage your well-being and who is there to provide support for you and your emotional well-being. As well as talking openly about these topics, we will also be leading you through some exercises which can be helpful in managing your well-being. You're very welcome to join in with these exercises as we talk through them if you feel able. And if you don't feel comfortable to do so, that's absolutely fine as well. I'm really pleased this evening to be joined by two speakers, and we would love to welcome Tara White and Lisa Woodrow, who will be joining us to explore this topic of emotional well-being. Tara White is the centre head at Maggie's in South Wales. And Maggie's is a charity that provides free expert care and support across the UK and online to those living with cancer and their loved ones. Tara has over 10 years' experience working with people with cancer. Her role at Maggie's is to ensure the team are providing the best possible support to people with cancer and their families. And before joining Maggie's in 2017, Tara worked as a radiotherapist and cancer support specialist. We'd like to say thank you, Tara, for joining us this evening. And an all big welcome to my colleague, Lisa Woodrow, who is my fellow specialist nurse here at Pancreatic Cancer UK. Before joining the team at Pancreatic Cancer UK, Lisa worked in a variety of settings, including over a decade as a specialist nurse, looking after patients with pancreatic and liver cancers in a specialist centre in London. Before we begin this evening's session, we want to ensure that what we discuss is as tailored to you as possible. And so we wanted to begin by asking you about your personal experience. You will see now a poll pop up on the screen where you can select which areas of your well-being have been impacted by pancreatic cancer. So thank you so much for voting in that poll to just set the tone for this. And as we can see, a high percentage of people have indicated that it has an effect on their emotional well-being, their mental well-being, and their physical well-being, as well as other areas such as financial and spiritual well-being. It's very interesting for us to see these polls written down in front of us so that we can just talk about this during our discussion. We'll now be handing over to Lisa and Tara, and we're going to discuss some questions this evening. The first question we would like to think about is how pancreatic cancer affects people's well-being. And Lisa, would you mind coming in on that firsthand and just giving us your thoughts about that, and then we can speak with Tara as well.
Of course, thanks, Jeni. Apologies, I'm a bit croaky tonight as I have somewhat of a cold, but hopefully you can hear me and I'm not losing my voice entirely. So really interesting to see everybody's thoughts, and thank you, as Jeni said, for joining and spending your time this evening with us. Obviously, this webinar, we're hoping to explore the sort of emotional and well-being aspects of a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. And people, virtually everybody, I think, has said to some extent it affects their emotional and mental well-being. Jeni's first question was how does pancreatic cancer tend to affect people's well-being? And I thought I would start by exploring, as the nurse here, along with Jeni, but more than the physical effects of pancreatic cancer, because this all does lead into your emotional well-being, whether that's your psychological, emotional well-being as well. So what Jeni and I, I'm sure both would agree when we speak to people on the support line here, when we're supporting people with pancreatic cancer or affected by it, our well-being is affected by digestion, pain, fatigue, diabetes, other symptoms, body image, difficulty concentrating. So all of these things impact on somebody's well-being. And maybe if we can drill down a little bit on that, and I'm hoping, well, I'm wishing this doesn't relate to a lot of you, but I'm sure it probably does. Digestion. So we know that the pancreas is involved in helping our digestion. It produces enzymes and it produces hormones to manage blood sugars as well. If these things aren't working properly, then people's appetite's affected, they lose weight, you might experience taste changes, and the whole host of bowel symptoms, which I spend an awful lot of my day talking to people who are struggling to manage their bowel symptoms. This leads to stomach pain. Some of it can lead to back pain. And if you can't absorb your food properly, you're going to be more tired as well. So all of this really impacts not just on the physical side of things, but also on your emotional well-being and how you're able to cope. And I think often we forget how this affects our general well-being. There's one thing trying to manage those symptoms. And I think it's really important that we make sure as nurses looking after people that we support better appetite. How do we get people to eat better, reduce their loss of weight, improve things like their taste changes? Because actually, if that side of those symptoms are better, then I really do believe that people will start to feel better, and that affects their well-being and all the other things that they can do. Would you agree, Jeni?
Absolutely. And the other thing I might add in there is sleep, because we know that people really struggle with sleep because of pain, because of treatment, because of just worry, maybe in the middle of the night, or
Yeah.
concerns where they're left waking, lying there awake, thinking about what's happening. So I think, again, if we can just try to help with some of these really, I guess, basic human needs, really, in terms of good nutrition, good sleep, being able to get a bit of exercise, being able to have the energy to go out, all of those kinds of things really do enhance a person's well-being.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how small things can make such a big difference. Just like not having diarrhea for a few days in a row is such a big thing for people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead
Allows
of
people to get out and do what they want to do rather than being sad and depressed at home or worried that they might have an accident going out.
exactly, exactly.
Other things I was also thinking were things like managing diabetes. Actually, quite a few people will become diabetic, and some people will manage just with a few dietary changes or tablets. But other people have to cope with swinging blood sugars really high, really low. And the stress of that is, it can be really overwhelming for some people, as well as, if you're running a high blood sugar, you feel really tired or thirsty. If you're having a low blood sugar, you can't do very much at all. So all of that affects your well-being. And then the other thing I was thinking about, and some things perhaps that Tara may have more thoughts on as well, is body image. So with a diagnosis of
Yeah.
pancreatic cancer, or looking after somebody with pancreatic cancer, you may find you've got scars or you've got PICC lines or port lines if you're having treatment. People having treatment will have chemotherapy, may lose their hair, or certainly their hair may get thinner. So people have low self-esteem, perhaps about how they look sometimes, or just feel a bit more conscious they don't look like they used to. So body image can be a
Hmm.
real thing, I think, for people. And I don't know whether at Maggie's, Tara, whether you get people coming in sort of looking for support and things regarding body image. Is that something that you experience?
Thanks, Lisa. And yeah, thank you for the introduction, Jeni, as well. Good evening, everyone. Absolutely. Body image is a massive, challenge for a lot of our visitors with any type of cancer. But like you were mentioning, the various physical side effects that people with pancreatic cancer can experience, and obviously weight loss comes into that. For some patients, it can be weight gain, and that they're not always side effects that people kind of think about, people that aren't affected by cancer think about, and the impact that just that one side effect can have, that change to body image, and how people then react to them, and then the subsequent emotional impact that has on that person when they're receiving that reaction from somebody. But from our side, I guess you've spoken about the physical side effects. Lisa, you know, and we had a 94% mentioned that emotional impact was one of the biggest struggles of their diagnosis, and that's what we deal with the most in Maggie's. And that can look different for everyone. So for some people, the emotional impact can be an increase in anxiety. All of a sudden, some people have never experienced anxiety before, and then all of a sudden find this quite overwhelming, to be experiencing this sort of fear of leaving the house, or this general nervousness about everyday tasks which they've never experienced before. And they can be sort of overwhelming feelings of uncertainty, and the fact that, you know, everything has suddenly become uncertain, and perhaps those retirement plans or those career plans or those family plans that you had for the next few months or a few years are suddenly looking very different, and that becomes overwhelming in itself. Other sort of emotional side effects which we often are discussing in Maggie's can be feelings of guilt, feelings of anger, and these are quite difficult emotions to hold. And again, that can be challenging if you've never sort of had strong feelings of anger before or strong feelings of guilt before. Suddenly trying to deal with this in amongst trying to process all this medical information that you're being told, trying to manage your physical side effects, again, can really impact then your day-to-day life, your day-to-day well-being, and how you're feeling, and just being able to take the small joys in life that you perhaps previously took for granted, which I think we're all guilty of doing. So there's so much that can come up in terms of your emotional well-being, and then consequently how that affects your overall well-being. Lisa, you were talking about the physical side effects. Obviously, that's in relation to the people going through the treatment, people with the cancer diagnosis. But for people who are supporting someone right now with a pancreatic cancer diagnosis, you may also be experiencing some physical side effects that are questionable for you, or you might find as strange, and that they can come hand in hand with emotional distress. So increased anxiety, sleep issues can have impacts on your digestion. So you might be noticing that actually all of a sudden you've got loose bowels, and again, you've always had a regular pattern, or you might be feeling quite sick, or you might be noticing that your chest feels quite tight. Suddenly you're noticing your palms feel quite sweaty, or that like your heart rate's increasing. And all of these come hand in hand with how you're feeling emotionally. So, you know, if you are supporting somebody and you're starting to experience these side effects, they're very likely coming in hand because of how you're emotionally responding and how you're emotionally feeling in this situation.
Absolutely exhausted. And I think you quite nicely covered our second question there, Tara, in terms
Jeni,
of...
can I just interrupt you? Because there's one thing I'd like to share, if that's not too cheeky of me. Sorry, Chairman.
No, of course. Yeah, sure.
But you were starting to talk about fatigue, which I either forgot to or didn't finish my thoughts on. But I did. You know, I had a phone call with somebody recently, and she was saying that even though she'd been lucky enough to have surgery and she'd just finished her chemotherapy, that she was still absolutely exhausted. And it's not long since she's finished her sort of 9 months of treatment cycle, but how this really affected her well-being. And then the fact that she didn't have the confidence to go out of the house. And this is something that we do hear a lot. So if these are things that people are experiencing and have some sympathy with, I think you are very much not alone. And it's the lack of sleep, it's the pain, it's the constant tick-tock in the head of what's happening or what's not happening, not understanding things, the fear and the anxiety that Tara's alluded to as well. And it's exhausting. And we know that pancreatic cancer people really do struggle with fatigue. And I don't understand the science behind it. Hands up, I've never understood the science of that. But there is something about pancreatic cancer and fatigue that is overwhelming for people. So I think just to reiterate what you were saying, Jeni, about that. Sorry to interrupt.
That's absolutely fine. And I totally agree. And I think as well, another thing that can completely exhaust people are the multiple hospital appointments, you know, going for scans, going for tests, going for biopsies, going for other invasive kind of investigations, and then into chemo. If you end up on chemo, the kind of, you know, the kind of rhythm of chemotherapy, it can be just really exhausting for people to just get through all of these things. And you know, we understand that, you know, there are so many different parameters, and it's kind of good that we've just got on the screen there just the different aspects of how the areas of well-being can impact sort of one on another, the emotional, the physical, and all of the rest of it. It's kind of, if you're not able to work and things like that, there may be financial worries and struggles as well. So I mean, I think we've kind of covered the second question, Tara, in terms of, you know, the specific types of emotions. You mentioned anger, fear, you know, anxiety, that kind of thing, guilt. I mean, would you have anything else that you wanted to kind of add in there in terms of emotion? I mean, I guess for us, sometimes we hear things like relief that I've finally, as strange as that might sound, I'm relieved I finally have a diagnosis, that people actually, you know, have told me what's wrong with me, because I've been so unwell for so long. So, do you have any other thoughts around
Yeah,
specific feelings?
absolutely. That can be really conflicting for people as well. More so in some cases of family and friends, when the person who's got the diagnosis is saying that they're relieved to have the diagnosis, but it can be, as you guys know, hearing it all the time, it can be such a long process getting that diagnosis, and such a lot of upset during that time whilst you're waiting. So relief is something that we do hear as well. Many patients or many of our visitors speak about. Other ones to add, I guess, would be for some people coming in saying they don't feel anything. And again, that can be quite conflicting. Lots of people might think, you know, I'm supposed to be reacting in a certain way, like maybe how I'm seeing on the soaps or on the adverts and things like that. And actually, what I feel right now is nothing. And that can be really quite jarring for some people. They almost feel like, is there something wrong with me? Should I be being angry, or should I be crying here right now? Or, you know, what should be happening? And actually, that's okay as well. That's actually just your process and how your brain's processing this massive information, this huge life change that you've just been told about. And, you know, in time, you will start to process that and have different reactions to it. And the other, I guess, emotion, or it comes into the first question again, is low motivation, which comes usually hand in hand with low mood. And that, you know, again, isn't to be a surprise, or isn't something to be critical of yourself about. You know, you can have low motivation because of your mood, but also, like Lisa was just sharing about fatigue, you know, that is going to come again if you're feeling completely wiped out. The motivation to kind of get up and do something that might make you feel better will possibly feel like a really, really difficult task, and that's okay.
I
And
did share with the lady today that I
yeah,
did actually say to her, you know, you going out is exhausting, and you may feel more tired doing it, but actually some people do feel benefit by trying. It's that balance, isn't it, of motivation and low mood and low motivation. But there is evidence also to suggest those that are able, that actually a little bit more activity does actually make people feel better, and it improves their well-being both emotionally and physically. So I think that's there's two ends of that spectrum, really, aren't there?
absolutely. And I think that's something we come on to about sort of ways to boost well-being. Yeah.
Very nice, very nicely led into that there, Tara. Would you be able to talk us through a few ways that people can manage their well-being, and, you know, things that they can do, maybe small adjustments that they can make just to make life a little bit more manageable?
Yeah, and as I was saying, when you are feeling that low, or that motivation is really down, or that fatigue is really overwhelming, the thought of doing something to make yourself feel better in itself can then exhaust you, and then you think, oh, I just can't do anything, and you can quickly enter into quite a vicious cycle of, you know, feeling down and feeling helpless. But you don't need to do big grand gestures to boost your well-being. You know, we often think of well-being as being, you know, going off and doing a 5K run, or doing an hour's yoga or aerobics class, or, you know, creating a magnificent piece of art, or, you know, socializing with friends all day. And actually, if you're feeling really rotten physically and or emotionally, none of those things are going to appeal to you. That is going to feel really, really difficult and overwhelming. So it doesn't need to be big actions like that. It can be something as small as just making a warm drink and sitting out in your garden, if you have a garden, for 5 minutes, just while you drink that drink, and just putting yourself in nature for 5 minutes, getting that fresh air. It could be simply putting on a piece of music that you really enjoy listening to, and just having that as just your 3 to 5 minutes of time out. It could be just spending 5-10 minutes with one of your grandchildren, or one of your somebody that you're very close to, maybe with one of your pets, and just having that quality time. And you know, really, forget which endorphin exactly, which hormone exactly it is, but you know, there are specific hormones that are released when we give affection and receive affection. So that could be from your pets, it could be from a loved one, by just simply giving a hug or holding hands. You know, it can be small gestures of self-care. So that might be, for some people, painting their nails. For other people, it might be, and this might sound a bit extravagant if you're feeling low fatigue, but chopping wood. I know I've got a lot of male visitors, and that's a real big stress relief for them. Okay, they might not be able to do it for very long. But even if it's just going out to the garden and doing that with one log and coming back in, it's a great stress reliever for that person. So whatever self-care looks like to you, as I say, it doesn't need to be spending a lot of money or leaving the house for hours on end. It can be something small that you can do at home. There are loads of brilliant videos that you can access on YouTube, like for yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. We'll do a Qigong exercise before we end, so that will just give you a little snippet, and it's only 2 minutes long. And again, that can just be a really quick, small act of self-care or stress relief that you can apply at home. I don't know if you've got any other thoughts on that, Lisa or Jeni.
As ever, you're brilliant, Tara, and cover everything fantastically. The only thing I would say is, I think is trying to talk about how you are feeling can be difficult for many of us, and it's finding that outlet for you, and whether it is your nearest and dearest loved ones, whether you are the patient or whether you're the loved one. Sometimes you don't want to talk to each other about how you feel, but hopefully there is somebody that you can express how you're feeling with. And whatever that feeling is okay. It's okay to be sad. It's probably very normal. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be happy. And it's finding that place that you can have that outlet, so that you can talk honestly if you need to and express yourself. I think is really important.
Absolutely. And I think everybody's different, aren't they? So I think it's not a one size fits all. And for some people, like you said, Tara, it might be just as simple as having a nice warm bath, or just having that time to just sit and journal, or you know, just write your thoughts down, or whatever it is. So I think yeah, believe that you're going to help us a little bit now, Tara, in terms of leading us in an exercise. So that would be brilliant if we can hand over to you.
Yeah, okay. I think there's another slide that will, yeah, here we go. So what we're going to do today is a grounding exercise. It's really, really simple, really quick. It's something that you can apply anywhere, and no one needs to know that you're doing it. So if you find yourself, you know, in a situation where maybe you're starting to feel a bit panicked, or you're starting to notice your heart rate's increasing, or maybe you're getting stuck in a difficult thought loop that's going round and round, and it's just getting you more and more sort of wound up and stressed or upset, then this is an exercise you could apply at that time. So what I'd invite you all to do is just for a moment, just to start with, is just to close your eyes and just take 2 or 3 deep breaths in and out, and try to make your your exhale longer than your inhale. So for some, that might be breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 8. But if that feels too difficult, just bring it down to 6, 5 or 6. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And what I'd invite you to do is notice 5 things which you can see. And then notice 4 things which you can touch. Notice 3 things which you can hear. Two things which you can smell. And lastly, notice 1 thing which you can taste. And then when you're ready, hopefully come back to the room, if that's the right phrase in this setting. So the taste and smell can be a bit challenging, so you sometimes have to be a bit more use your imagination with that, depending on how long ago you ate or drank something. But this is just something really simple. It's called a grounding exercise to try and take you away from those difficult thoughts that you might be in, or from that situation that's just presented itself that's caused you to feel a bit heightened, a bit stressed, like your heart rate's increasing. And just give your body a moment just to ground itself and to come back to what's happening in the here and now. Now, some people, as I say, it varies for everyone. You can use it in any situation. Nobody needs to know that you're doing it. Just this week, we deliver stress management in Maggie's, and we were talking about this exercise last week, and one of our visitors had shared that she'd actually applied this when she couldn't sleep, and had found it really helpful, and it actually helped her get back to sleep, and she slept very soundly afterwards. Now, that could have been a fluke, but I'll take it. I was really pleased to hear that she'd applied it so soon, and it had helped her in that situation. And again, a bit more challenging at night if you're in bed and you've got all the lights off. You've really got to tune into what you can see and feel. But hopefully that's something that some of you will find helpful. And as I say, if you want to practice relaxation more, just get in touch with your local Maggie centre.
Oh, thank you so much, Tara. Just can I ask both of you now, who can people talk to for support? Who can they contact for support?
I think it's initially, isn't it, it's reaching out to your lovely friends and family around you, as I suggested earlier. I guess we ran a similar session to this last year, and there were kind of elements of distress, for want of a better way of putting it. It perhaps depends where you find yourself on that spectrum. But there's always as is on the screen there, our pancreatic cancer nursing support line. So Jeni and I are 2 of 7 nurses that sit on the support line. The phone lines are open Monday to Friday, 9 till 4. We don't start till 10 on a Wednesday, but 9 till 4. None of us are counsellors, but we are, I think and hope, pretty good at listening and offering support. And some people literally phone us without a question. They just need somewhere else to offload to, or somebody just to sense check with. So I think we are pretty readily available, which I think is what people find really lovely, is that, they might try and get through to their nurse specialist in the hospital or the counsellors in the teams there, but that can take hours, days, sometimes weeks. So by all means, use us. Tara, I'm sure we'll talk more again about what Maggie's will offer. GPs will offer, depending on where you are and what services they have available to them, but they will have some counselling linked in with them. hospices again well, not again, but hospices are a brilliant resource for providing people and families with emotional support. You don't have to be near the end of somebody's life to be able to contact and be supported by a hospice. So they can be great resources, and they also provide um, sessions like art therapy or Reiki and things like that. So some people find relaxation sessions are great. Things like that would be good. And our PC circles, isn't it, Jeni? I don't know if you want to, do you want to talk more about that? That's a sort of online provision that we have.
Yes, we have online provision, which is via WhatsApp groups, and those are groups with different sections for different people. There's a family, friends, and carer section. There's a patient section. There's a 3 a.m. club, and there's a recipe club. Well, a chat. So, and these are virtual supports. So, you can sign up on our website and under support for you and PC circles. So that's another avenue for people. But I would definitely encourage people to contact us if they need sort of help medically or even further than medically, physically, symptom management, those kinds of issues, because sometimes it's just having a good chat and having that time to really dial down into what you're actually doing. We might be able to just spot something, and everything is important. Nothing is irrelevant. So the more information we have, the better.
I'd also
Tara,
say,
did you?
Jen, so I'm a big interrupter. You'll never have me again. But spirituality is something we haven't quite talked about in depth yet. And spirituality doesn't have to be, Tara alluded to it as well, but doesn't have to be necessarily your religion. You may have a faith that you want to explore further or get great support from. Other people's spirituality might be about their sort of comfort zones and things that they like to do to find their own happier place and well-being. And that can be, whether it's art, I think Tara mentioned you doing a big masterpiece, but whether it's art or whether it's music or whether it's cooking, as you've suggested, Jeni. So the spirituality is perhaps more what's important to you, and whether that is a religious faith or whether it's what actually makes you tick and happy. So exploring those options with people, both patients and carers, I think is really, really important, and finding things to do to support that is good.
Thanks, Lisa. That's brilliant. And Tara, do you have any other areas of support, I guess, where we can tap into or where people can tap into?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar with Maggie's, we are drop-in centres. If you can't see a centre that's located near you on the slide that's up at the moment, then you can access us online. We do, across all of our centres, we pretty much cover the whole programme of support online between us. And we can speak to you on the phone. We can do virtual calls as video calls as well. So you can come in or contact us at any time to speak with the cancer support specialist for that immediate emotional support. And we do have psychologists available too if you need a bit more. If you're if you're struggling with more complex issues, then we have that psychological resource as well. If you're based in Wales, we have when you call 111, there's an option to press 2. That's for mental health support on the phone. So if you're really, really struggling, please use that number if you're based in Wales. In England, they have the IAPT service, which you can self-refer to, which is community psychological support as well. But if you look in your community, there are lots of support options within the community, things like the Men's Shed. There's various different groups. There are lots of independent charities as well. So obviously Maggie's and Pancreatic Cancer UK are nationwide, bigger charities, but there are lots of areas where there are small independent charities which offer similar kind of support services to us. So do just have a look at your local area. But other than that, I think Lisa covered it all.
The other thing I'd say is taking time out, perhaps as well, is having that honest discussion. If I don't know, if I'm hoping that people are here with loved ones and carers and patients together, but it's having that honest discussion about saying, I think for you it would really help to go and do this and go and see your friend. And then if you're worried that maybe you need to go and do something, but you're leaving the person with pancreatic cancer home alone, is there a friend that you can ask to come and sit with them? So that guilt of somebody doing something and somebody not doing something, there are ways of managing those things. And I think I would hope that, most people's friends would step in if they're asked. People say, can I do anything? And we're very bad at asking. We're quite British sometimes about asking for help. I am anyway, but I think a lot of people are, they find that difficult. So actually, friends do want to help, but sometimes they just need telling what it is that they can do that can help. And those simple things have been, I'll take you to an appointment, or I'll take you that 20 miles to the Maggie Centre, because actually they provide a wonderful service, but it is 20 miles away. But it's better that you go there and you don't, and I will be that person that takes you there, and I can leave you there and be on standby to come and get you. So it's being able to offer those things to each other, and also the carers as well. You need time out to manage your own well-being and that space. And the men's shed, I'd forgotten about the men's shed. Is that where they go and people can go and make things, can't they?
Absolutely. They're all of them are different. So, my local one's big into gardening. I know, one of my colleagues' local one is big into carpentry. Then our local one to Maggie's is more about a coffee, a cake and a chat. So they're fantastic. And some men's shed are now women's sheds as well. So I've been told. But also what I forgot to mention is we do support family and friends. So if you didn't know that, and your family or friend online tonight, you can access Maggie's as well.
Oh, thank you so much, both of you. That was absolutely brilliant. There's so many questions, guys. So we're going to go into Q&A a time right now. I will do my best to allocate them to the right people. And thank you to our lovely colleague, Leah, who's also in the background answering some of your questions. So if we don't get to them all live, then Leah will continue to answer questions for us. So that's fantastic. So Lisa, if I could ask you the first one, that is, do you have any nutritional advice for those who have problems with diarrhea and are wanting to maintain, optimize their nutritional intake during chemo? If I could just say, first of all, we need to make sure that any diarrhea, which is from a lack of pancreatic enzymes, is stabilized before we head into chemo, because otherwise we can differentiate, but it all gets kind of lumped into one. You don't know whether the chemo is from not enough enzymes or whether it's actually the diarrhea even, or whether it's from chemo. So have you got anything to add there, Lisa?
I'm not sure I want to talk over the expert on pancreatic enzymes, having been here for so long, Jeni, and been an expert, but you're absolutely right. Often it is about ensuring that somebody has enough enzymes. It's not one size fits all. People need different amounts of enzymes. Do phone us. Very happy to take a phone call from anybody tomorrow over the coming days, and we can drill down on the details a little bit more. But there are symptoms that are very clearly related to not having enough enzymes. So the wind, the gas, the bloating, the urgency to go to the toilet, the stomach cramps, the greasy floaty poos, all of those things are often related to not enough enzymes. So if you need more enzymes, have more enzymes. We've run previous webinars, which are also available on our Support for You tab, which do have a great lot of advice about diet and nutritional support, which might be a good resource for, I don't know if anybody in the background on can pop that into the chat at all, but there are webinars which we've run before. But it's about high calorie, high protein, high fat with the right amount of enzymes to make sure that you absorb and use that food. Taste changes, people do get taste changes, and that affects their well-being as well. So if I'm not skirting the question, but it may be a much better detailed conversation we can have with as many people that want to call in the coming days. But from that question, I think that would
Yeah, I mean, and the only thing I would add to that is in terms of maintaining your nutritional status, there aren't any special diets as such, but just eat a balanced diet. Make sure you have protein, make sure you have some carbohydrate, make sure you have vegetables and fruit where you get your minerals and your vitamins. And if you want something, if you fancy something, have it, but make sure that you adjust your creon accordingly. And again, as Lisa said, we can definitely dial into this in a lot more depth in a phone call or an email or whatever you feel like you can you want to get in touch with us. So we'd love to hear from you. So
I can see how helpful, Jeni, you've been, and Hillary's put a comment about speaking to you already previously.
she has. I was just going to come to the question from Steve first, and then we'll pop down to Hillary's. Steve is saying that he's lost about 6 stones in weight and always feels cold. The GP is beginning to suspect thyroid problems and is asking, what have others found? I mean, is this something that we would see? I would say definitely make sure that you're on Creon, Steve, and you're taking enough Creon, that you're not diabetic and those kinds of things. Other than that, Lisa, have you got any experience with thyroid issues?
I don't, if I'm absolutely honest. I think a simple answer would be to get your thyroid blood levels checked. So if the GP is suspecting that, get the levels checked. People often do feel colder. If you have lost 6 stone, you will have lost some of that muscle and that fat layer. So you're not going to have as much padding around you, and you will feel the cold more, I think, is probably quite a natural thing. Yeah, I'm not sure more than that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I would say, yeah, have a blood test will tell you very easily, Steve, whether you're have a low or well, probably a high thyroid actually if you're losing weight. So,
But also,
so
sorry, going back to that, sorry, Jeni, is also, as you suggested, is making sure that your diet is full of good nutrition. So in this case, lots of protein, lots of fat with the Creon to make sure that you actually have the calories to absorb. Because if you're not managing to eat enough, then you won't be able to. Getting blood test tomorrow. Brilliant.
excellent stuff. So I mean, thanks, Hillary, for your comment. You're talking about the fact that nurses, health professions are not very au fait with Creon and how it works, and they don't deal with it so often. And can you insist that your care is overseen by the upper GI nurse at the specialist unit? Lisa, I'm asking you that one.
I think you can ask whether they will listen to your insistence or not. I don't know. It's a balance of you wanting the best care for you or your loved one, which is absolutely the most important thing, and finding that best care. And some people in all walks of life, I'm not just talking nursing, some people are better at their jobs than others. Other people might learn with you and improve the care that they can provide. You shouldn't have to be dancing on eggshells to get the best care. So you can ask. It typically is that the specialist centres do look after the surgical patients unless you already fall into their geographical area.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to keep flagging us, but you can use us if you want to use us as a sort of specialist person to bang ideas off and just say, actually, I would go back and ask that question. That's not perhaps what I would expect. I think it's okay to go back and ask that. Then we can be a sounding board and help with that, perhaps.
And we do have resources for health professions as well. In fact, we have a free online course on pancreatic enzyme replacement therapy and everything to do with that. So it may be something that you can pinpoint, signpost them to even, Hillary, it's perfectly, feasible for you to say, well, I know that there's a course that you can do if you want to find out some more information. So hopefully they'd be amenable to that. I'm just going to move on because there's quite a lot of questions. From Natalie, mum's pain is not managed. She's on, I think that's MST, 12 hourly, but wakes up at 3:30 in pain and has hot water bottle until 7:30 when she takes the next meds. What would you advise for her throughout the night? Well, I would say, Natalie, definitely if she's waking up in pain, it depends on what kind of pain. If it's back pain, then she may need additional types of medications to add on to those to that MST, but also she can have paracetamol for sure regularly, and she can also have Oromorph liquid, which would be useful for the breakthrough pain. So she shouldn't have to wait until 7:30 to be able to take her next pain relief. She should be able to have some breakthrough pain killers, such as I said, liquid morphine, which is called Oromorph, or whatever derivative they would like to prescribe for her. So again, contact us on the support line. We can go into this in much more detail with you. I think I saw 2 questions about PICC lines being flushed. One said it was being flushed every 10 days, and one said they were told it should be 7 days. So I think I'm just going to answer that question about PICC lines. They should be flushed once a week. So every 7 days, basically, there should be a flush within that. It shouldn't really go over that, because that's when you can have little fibrous clots developing, and that's what kind of stops them from working. And then there's a palaver of trying to unblock them. So within 7 days, they should be flushed once every 7 days. So am I making that clear? Is that clear? I hope so. Lisa, there's a question about a CA 19.9, which is 860, and the scan is in a fortnight. With a tumor marker this high, is surgery a possibility?
Tricky one. I don't think there's an absolute cutoff.
No.
Being blunt, the levels that continue to rise can be more worrisome. And I think that is one for the specialist team, and fundamentally what is shown on the scan. So I think most centres would probably give him the benefit of the doubt if the tumour is still confined to the pancreas only. They may discuss the options of having different chemotherapy if he's already having chemotherapy first, or whether to start some chemotherapy and reconsider surgery afterwards. That is usually a very individual decision, and there can be other reasons why the CA 19.9 goes up, not just the aggressiveness of a tumour or the activity of a tumour, which are not necessarily related to the cancer at all. So the whole picture needs to be explored. But
exactly, yeah, and also checking what the scan is showing and whether it's actually an operable tumour. I think the CA 19.9 is kind of an aside thing. There are other parameters that need to be observed before someone is considered for surgery. I'm going to come to Michelle quite quickly, because she's asked how and when to take Creon, and I'm wondering whether some of our lovely colleagues in the background could post the link to our pancreatic enzyme information for Michelle, which will go into a lot more detail, Michelle, and it's very simple and easy to understand, and an excellent document, in fact. Essentially, you take pancreatic enzymes with everything you eat and every drink that's more than 50% milk, and you take them just before or during the meal, and you take them with a small amount of water. But that's a very short answer to a very intricate question, which is a very important question. So I'm going to hope that some of my colleagues in the background will post the link to that information. And again, please contact us on the support line. This is what we do every day, and we love it. So we'll be quite happy to help you with this. Tara, I'm going to direct this one to you. This is a lovely chap, Gareth. Hello, Gareth. He says he's 60, 22 months post-Whipples, and so far, so good. Good on you, Gareth. Long may it last. Despite things going really well, I feel that I'm not able to plan beyond the next year. Is that normal?
Yes, I did see this, and I wondered if you'd put this one out loud, Jeni. Great that you're post surgery, Gareth. I'm really pleased to hear that things are sounding positive. I think completely normal to feel like you can't plan ahead. It's particularly with this diagnosis, and how it's spoken about in the media is often not in the most favourable way, and that perhaps feeds into a lot of uncertainty as well. So the short answer is yes, I think it is normal. The longer answer is I would try not to dwell on not being able to plan further ahead, and focus on what you can plan and what you feel like you can plan at the moment. If you feel like living with that uncertainty is becoming very difficult, again, this is something we deal with in Maggie's frequently, and we may have a group that would be suitable for you. A lot of our centres do run this group under usually called Ongoing with Cancer, and that's for people who are like yourselves, you know, perhaps living with that uncertainty of, might this cancer be gone forever, or might this come back, and the challenges around that, and generally we get very good feedback in terms of visitors finding that really helpful to be with others who understand. But if you want that more one-to-one support on how to manage the uncertainty, get in touch with us, and we'll try and organise some one-to-one support for you.
Quickly, I don't know whether Macmillan still do, but Macmillan did have a link with Bupa providing, I think, 6 sessions of counselling. I don't know if either of you know if that's still running, but it may be worth looking and seeing if that is available for people, if people in different schools.
I believe it is stopping. Whether it's stopped already, I don't know. So worth getting in touch and seeing if you can get in before it stops. But I was under the impression that was coming to an end, unfortunately. But do check it out, just in case I've got that information wrong.
Oh, brilliant. And one question from Charlotte. It's about chemotherapy, and it's about, I guess, the 5 fluorouracil pump, which mum goes home with. And it would appear that the balloon, which is, if anybody doesn't know, it's a way that the chemotherapy is given. So the balloon is contained inside the little plastic pump, and it is deflates by vacuum. So the vacuum goes through the line up into the PICC line and into the body that way. So so it seems that there's an issue with it not totally deflating, which means that potentially some of the chemotherapy hasn't infused. And that can happen sometimes, Charlotte, but it shouldn't be consistently happening. So if that is a problem, then I think it sounds as though they may need to come and come a bit later, or you may need to discuss it with the oncologist, because there could be something to do with the dose or the dilutant, or maybe they've made too much up or whatever. It shouldn't be happening consistently. So I would definitely flag that with your oncology team, with your mum's oncology team, and speak to them about the fact that it's not seeming to be emptied at the right time, because you're right, it is important that she does get all of her chemotherapy. So thank you for that question. It's quite an important question because it might pop up for other people. That was a lot of questions, and thank you so much to our colleagues who've been answering some questions in the background and posting some links, which I hope you find useful. I'm now going to hand over to Tara, who's going to just close off the session tonight with a little exercise. So over to you, Tara.
Sorry, forgot I was muted. So on the next slide, we're going to do a really quick exercise. It's a Qigong exercise for stress relief. It's called Shake It Out. So I will turn my camera off for this as well, because it's not something that I think anyone wants to be seen doing. You might feel a little bit silly doing this, but again, this is something you could, if you were in a public place, perhaps just take yourself off to the toilet to do, or if you're at home, you could do it anywhere. It's a very, very simple exercise to reduce stress in the body. So yeah, I would invite you all to give it a go if you feel comfortable to, and if you enjoy it, he's got plenty of videos on YouTube and they're all free to access. So yeah, we'll go on to the next one and pop that on. I think it's on there. There we go. Lovely. So I hope you enjoy.
Welcome you to the beautiful mountains here in Yosemite, California. I want to show you a natural stress relief technique that's going to clear the energy in the body and transform stress into vitality. If you can't make it to the Sierras with this beautiful view, these gorgeous trees, and the Yosemite in the background, this technique is for you. All right, we're going to stand with the feet about shoulder width And then you're going to just shake. Shake the wrists and the arms and the hands. Shaking is a wonderful technique to clear stress and transform it back into vital life force energy. Shake the wrists, the arms, and the hands. Take a nice deep breath, exhale, and let it all go. Now bounce into your heels. And this area right here, the cranial base, is where we carry a lot of stress and tension. If that area releases, tension releases out of the whole spine, through the nervous system, and then out of the whole body. So relax right here, right across the base of the skull. Then inhale through the nose, and exhale out through the mouth. Good, take a nice deep breath. Now 30 seconds to a minute of shaking transforms stress back into vital energy. Do it one more time. Slow it down. Relax. Notice how your body feels. See if you can feel that energy, that relaxation circulating through you. Take this beautiful view and that wonderful energy back with you into the rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Tara, for that.
That's okay. I hope you all did it. It was my first time I've moved properly today, so it was good for me.
Excellent. It's always good to have a little shake, isn't it? So I'd like to just say a really big thank you to Tara and Lisa for sharing their expertise with us. And I know I speak on behalf of everyone. I say we really appreciate it. But I also would like to say thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us this evening. And on behalf of everybody at Pancreatic Cancer UK, thank you so much for coming. I think we could have probably had a much longer webinar because there are so many questions, and thank you all for contributing to the chat and to the questions and answers as well. And please do call us on the support line. We'll be looking forward to speaking to you and just having a bit more time to discuss some of the issues with you. So we'll sign off for now and look out for more events from us in the future. Thank you so much, everybody, and good evening.